We're reading from Sri Isopanishad, Mantra 11, Vidyam cha vidyam yas cha yas tad vedo bhayam saha avidya yam mrityum tirtva vidya yam ritam ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immorality. So in Mantra 10, we heard what was that by cultivation of nescience, we get one result, and by cultivation of knowledge, we get another result. And then Prabhupada mentioned in the purport what Krishna says is knowledge based on chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. So then, since the creation of the material world, everyone has been trying to attain a permanent life. But the laws of nature are so cruel that no one has been able to avoid the hand of death. No one wants to die, nor does anyone want to become old or diseased. The law of nature, however, does not allow anyone immunity from old age, disease, or death. Nor has the advancement of material knowledge solved these problems. It's very relevant now, especially, with the COVID. So we say, okay, before we wiped out cholera, we wiped out so many diseases, over the years, but newer and newer diseases keep coming up. Newer and newer, more and more difficult diseases keep coming up. Now, we never heard of COVID before. Now there's COVID. So diseases are there. And even if disease is totally wiped out, we are going to leave this body. We are going to die. That is the law of material world. That is the law of this body. Although we are all trying a permanent life, but we are not able to understand how can we actually attain this permanent life. So, nor has the advancement of material knowledge solved these problems. So we have so much more knowledge, and we are saying that we are much better than people used to be even 50 years ago, 60 years ago. We have so much more things, so much more facilities. But are the problems solved? No, the problems are not solved. Old age, we are still getting old. Disease, we are still getting disease now. With COVID, it's staring in our face. And death, we are going to die with either one excuse or the other. The excuse could be a disease, the excuse could be old age, the excuse could be accident, or it could be just, oh, they died peacefully, but death will come. So material science can discover the nuclear bomb to accelerate the process of death, but it cannot discover anything that can protect man from the cruel hands of old age, disease, and death. So in material knowledge, what we are doing? We got the nuclear bomb, but what is the bomb for? To kill people. So then how are we protecting? How are we protecting death? How are we protecting people from death if we are actually killing them? So there is no material knowledge that can protect us from old age, disease, and death. From the Puranas, we learn the activities of Hiranyakashipu, a king who was very much advanced materially. Wanting to conquer cruel death by his material acquisitions and the strength of his nations, he underwent a type of meditation so severe that the inhabitants of all the planetary systems became disturbed by his mystic powers. He forced the creator of the universe, the demigod Brahma, to come down to him. He then asked Brahma for the benediction of becoming Amar, by which one does not die. Brahma said that he could not award the benediction because even he, the material creator who rules all planets, is not Amar. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8.17, Brahma lives a long time, but that does not mean he is immortal. So Hiranyakashipu was also trying to find the solution of death. So what solution he found? He thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of penance. He first of all, he conquered. He conquered the heavenly kingdoms, also Indra. All the demigods were really afraid of him. So he was practically controlling all the planets. Then he did a lot of austerity, a lot of meditation, a lot of austerity, that even his body was not there, only bones. His breath was only in the bones. And he forced Brahma. Brahma didn't want to come. He forced. It's not that Brahma was happy to come in front of him, but he was forced to come. And then he told Brahma, I want to become Amar, eternal. Brahma said, I'm sorry, I cannot give you this. Even I'm going to die, what will I give you? So it shows that even Brahma, he lives for a very long time. He lives very long time, I think 311 trillion years or something, according to our human calculation. For us, which is like, how much is that, But he's still gonna die. So Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means soft bed. This cunning gentleman, Hiranyakashipu, was interested in these two things, money and women. And he wanted to enjoy them by becoming immortal. So what is Hiranyakashipu? Hiranya, gold, Kashipu, soft bed. He wanted money and he wanted women, and he wanted to enjoy eternally. That's why he wanted to become eternal, because he was already rich and he had a lot of women around him. So he wanted to enjoy the money and women eternally. So he asked from Brahma many benedictions in hope of indirectly fulfilling his desire to become immortal. Since Brahma told him that he could not grant the gift of immortality, Hiranyakashipu requested that he not be killed by any man, animal, god, or any other living being within the 8,400,000 species. So Brahma is telling him, even I have to die. So then now Hiranyakashipu is thinking, okay, how can I get out of this? Brahma is saying, even he has to die. Let me try a trick of how can I escape death. So he's saying, okay, I should not be able to be killed by any living entity in this 8,400,000 species. So Brahma is like, okay. Then he also asked not to die on land, in air, or water. So not in land, air, or water. So he's thinking, okay, I'm covering up everything. Then nor by any weapon. Okay, so I'm quite safe. In this way, Hiranyakashipu foolishly thought these guarantees would save him from death. Ultimately, however, although Brahma granted him all these benedictions, he was killed by the personality of Godhead in the form of Nrsimha, the Lord's half lion, half man incarnation, and no weapon was used to kill him, for he was killed by the Lord's nails. Nor was he killed on the land, in the air, or in the water, for he was killed on the lap of that wonderful living being, Nrsimha, who was beyond his conception. So no matter how, we can see, we can't out-trick Krishna. We think we are smarter than Krishna, but he's smarter than us. We have to remember that he's the one who's created us, not that we created him. So he's always smarter than us, The whole point here is that even Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful of materialists, could not become deathless by his various plans. What then can be accomplished by the tiny Hiranyakashipus of today, whose plans are thwarted from moment to moment? So we are called tiny Hiranyakashipu. We are not very great Hiranyakashipu that the Lord is going to come himself to kill us. We are tiny also. We are also trying our best to be to exploit whatever we are given in this material world, whatever resources that we have. We are also trying to exploit it, trying to live here eternally. But this is a lesson we need to learn. So Sri Isopanishad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of material nature are so hard and fast that they do not allow anyone to surpass them. In order to attain a permanent life, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead. So it's our choice, If we want to remain in this material world, then we have to accept that this material world, there are material laws. For example, we live in any particular country, we have to follow the laws of that country to be able to have a peaceful life over there. So here, We have to hear what is the laws of this material world. Then we are going to die. And karshati, hard struggle for existence. Krishna uses the word karshati for this hard struggle for existence. And Prabhupada says, what is this? What are we struggling so hard for? What is this hard struggle? The hard struggle is because we are trying to be the controller. We are trying to be the proprietor. We are trying to be the enjoyer. But because that is not who we truly are, we really have to struggle very hard to maintain the status quo. We have to struggle very hard to pretend, to show that, yes, I'm the controller. Struggle very hard to show, yes, I'm the enjoyer. Or struggle very hard to show that I'm the owner. Because if it is something which is natural, we do not need to struggle hard at it, Then you're a pro at it. What's the struggle about? But in this material life, we are struggling, each of us, because we are not this body. We are eternal souls. And so if we really want a permanent life, then we must be prepared. Prabhupada's word choices, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead. So we have to decide. We have to decide, do we want to continue to struggle hard in this material world? Or if we want permanent life, then we have to prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead. The process by which one goes back to Godhead is a different branch of knowledge, and it has to be learned from revealed scriptures such as the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. To become happy in this life and attain a permanent blissful life after leaving this material body, one must study this sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. So now, if we really want to go back home, back to Godhead, then we have to cultivate knowledge. We have to hear. Now, who do we have to hear from? Not from WhatsApps or not from internet. We hear so many people are talking so many things, and we think, oh, really, this must be spiritual. But we have to understand, where is this person who's putting something up? Where is this person's knowledge coming from? If somebody is speaking, where is he speaking from? Now, this is the point why a person needs to understand what is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam. This is the reason why the knowledge of the Shastras is important for ourselves, to safeguard that, what am I hearing? I come across an article on WhatsApp. So is this authentic? Should I even try to read it? Or is it just somebody else's imagination? So then this is the reason we need to equip ourselves with the knowledge, Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. And then with that, we can be happy in this life, and we can go back home, back to Godhead. So the word Prabhupada uses is study this sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. And I really think that this word study is quite important, because before I would just read for the sake of reading. But now that when I read with y'all, I'm trying to understand it, and I get even more and more understanding, deeper realizations. So we need to actually study Prabhupada's books, to obtain transcendental knowledge. The conditioned living being has forgotten his eternal relationship with God and has mistakenly accepted the temporary place of his birth as all in all. So we are conditioned living beings. We are here in the material world. And what have we forgotten? We have forgotten that we have an eternal loving relationship with God. We have forgotten that. And we are thinking that all other relationships that we have here in this material world, those are eternal. That's why we don't want to leave them. That's why we are so attached to them, because we think that these relationships that now we have, those are eternal ones. But we do have eternal relationships. We do have, but that's in the spiritual world. That's where our true original relationships are. And our eternal relationship is with God, a loving relationship with him. So does it mean that all the relationships that we have right now, we should disregard them and say, oh, nobody means anything to me. No, that's being radical. That's being radical. Krishna does not tell us to do that. Krishna says we need to love each and every one, because everyone is a part and parcel of Krishna, and each of us has forgotten our eternal relationship. Each of us. So what is true love is compassion, reminding each other that let's go back home. Let's go back home. This is a temporary place. The Lord has kindly delivered the above mentioned scriptures in India and other scriptures in other countries to remind the forgetful human being that his home is not here in this material world. The living being is a spiritual entity, and he can be happy only by returning to his spiritual home. So we try to make so many adjustments. Yesterday, Prabhupada's quote was, don't try to adjust in this material world. We are always trying to make adjustments. I'm not happy right now, but only if this thing changes, I will be so happy. We are always adjusting. We are trying to make some adjustment, and then we find, oh, we are back to square one. I adjusted, but then again, I'm still suffering. What's the thing? Because we cannot be happy here in this material world. We can be happy only when we are connected to Krishna, only when we go back to the spiritual world. And here in this material world, the only happiness we can get is when we are engaged in bhakti, because that is spiritual. We are connecting ourselves to Krishna. Then we might say, oh, what do you mean adjust? We shouldn't adjust in this material world. What's happening? But it's like we take out a fish from the water, we take it out and we put him in the best hotel, and we give him nice music and the best of food and the best entertainment and facial and spa. But we see the fish is struggling. Why is it struggling? Because maybe the fish wanted jazz music instead of pop, Let me do the jazz. But we see the fish is still struggling. Maybe the fish didn't want to eat Indian food today. Maybe it wanted Italian. But we see it's still struggling. Oh, what happened? Maybe let me change to a better room. This room is not better. But the fish is still struggling. But how can we stop the fish from struggling? Just put him back in the water. He doesn't need all these things. He's struggling because he's not in the water. So that's what we are doing. We are increasing trying to improve our material situation, trying our best to improve our material situation, because we think that this is our home and that I can be permanently happy here. But the thing we have to understand is we do not belong here. The only way we can be happy is only when we go back home, back to Godhead. Because we are the spirit souls. We are not this material body. Any questions or comments till now what we read? Anything? Anyone wanted to add anything? If no, then we'll stop here for today. Thank you so much for listening. And Shri Isopanishad ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanand, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for all your participation.